And hello, everybody. It is Tom Chenault. This is Adrian Chenault, and it is the Legacy Leadership Radio Show. We've got an unbelievable guest for us today. You're going to love this guy. But before we get there, how you doing, Adrian?
I am great. How are you?
Never better.
Good.
What are you calling me these days? Internet influencer.
Internet sensation.
My little 11-second clip is now at 10.5 million views in 2 weeks. And it's a horrible clip. It's just absolutely should not have done a thing. I put all this profound stuff up, never ever gets watched by two people, and a piece of garbage of me falling asleep on my phone in the middle of the night and somebody recording me for 11 seconds got 10.5 million views, which to you, I all say, that would be a way for me to write a book about how to become an internet influencer. And I would know about as much as the internet influencers because I've called them on the phone and said, how do I monetize this thing? And none of their ideas have worked, even though I have the 10 million views. So I'm telling you, I'm going to stick with a guy like Justin Prince. And Justin Prince is a network marketer's network marketer. He goes way back. He was successful in business prior to this. He's written a phenomenal book that you have to go get called Be the One. He gave us all one of these things at Rob Sperry's big event. What's that called? Captain's Corner or something? What is
I think it's Pirates Cove.
Pirates
Captain's
Cove.
Corner.
And so he's going back to Captain's Corner. That's his next event, the same place.
It's great.
And I got to meet Justin and a bunch of really, really cool people in a really amazing place in the United States. So it's easy to get there. And I think he probably still has some room. So shout out to Sperry, because I would have never gotten to rub shoulders with a man of Justin's caliber had it not been for Rob Sperry. So Justin, welcome to the show, buddy. How are you?
Man, thanks for having me, guys. It's really an honor, and I got a lot of respect for both of you. And you know, Rob and I have been friends for, golly, 15, 17, something like that, 18 years now. So he's a good man too. It was great to meet you at his mastermind.
So you've had an interesting 5 years. But if you take a look at you and you take a look at a couple of other guys who've also had interesting 5 years, it's been interesting and it's been highs and lows. But I love about what you guys have done, and that's never given up. You just said, okay, good. That was a great punch you just threw at me. I'm not staying down. I'm going to get up and I'm going to live another day. And you've gone on to live another day in a major league way. And I'm extremely proud of you. And just talk about how it's gone from your previous business life up to network marketing. Then we'll talk about what happened in network marketing, because you truly are an icon and people need to know about you and probably work with you. Well,
that's very kind of you. I don't know about if I don't know what an icon is, and if I am one, I'm not sure what that means for for someone aspiring to be that. You know,
it's a lot better. Yeah, they call me a legend, which is horrible because that means you're dead. So
yeah, I was going to say legends are dead. I think so. Well,
All
maybe
right.
an icon's still alive, so hopefully
Yeah,
they're not dead yet. No, my folks got divorced at 12. We moved 13 times in the 7 years through my teenage years. I was my oldest at home with my mom. My dad had my older sister, older brother when they were first married. And, you know, I had really no professional background. I worked at making pizzas and doing construction work. I worked at a mall kiosk. I tease people that the malls where all of us older folks used to go. So Adrian wouldn't know what this is, Tom, you and I would, but when the Amazon was a river, you know, we also go hang out at the mall, you know, and I worked at a mall kiosk. I sold animated Bible videos out of a mall kiosk. So, you know, when I was 25 years old, I had my wife and I were married. I had a little baby boy. He's about a year and a half old. And I was introduced to network marketing. It's funny. It's like, I didn't know anything else about network marketing other than I didn't want to know anything else. I didn't want to know anything else about it. I was just kind of negative. I had a kind of by the way, for no good reason, I had kind of a negative connotation. And when I kind of got past that, I remember thinking to myself, what is there to be so negative about? I remember thinking, you have no risk to your credit or capital. You can build a business, you know, potentially over a 3 or 4 or 5 year period that potentially could build an income stream that could follow you for decades. You could help people. You could talk about nutrition and wellness. I was just thinking, what is there not to like with this? Like, where did all my little biases come from? And so I just went for it with that first company. And it took me a number of a year plus to kind of get to a place where I started to kind of get rid of that animated Bible sales job. I ultimately got rid of it. I became the #3 earner, national spokesperson for this company. I was on every Barnes and Noble and Borders newsstands. And by the way, I want to point out, this is back in the day when there was Barnes and Noble and Borders, just a long time ago. and I was in the entrepreneur section. So I was like, oh my gosh, I'm succeeding at this. And then one day we were in business, one day we weren't. The company switched their model to a retail model, literally got rid of the whole sales force in one night. And I had grown man tears just rolling down my face, because all this stuff that you'd built, was gone. And you kind of have that feeling of, it's like if you go through a rough breakup, for example, you'll say, I'll never love again. It's like, I'll never do anything like this again. And I ultimately picked myself up and I went back again. I went and got 2 part-time jobs. I moved my pregnant wife and our 2 kids into the loft of my wife's parents' garage. My 2 little babies are sleeping in the closet. My wife's pregnant. We're sleeping in this little loft area. I had one job I did during the weekdays, one I did in the weekends. I started with another company. I thought it'd take me 2 months to get full-time, because I'd had a little bit more experience this time. It didn't take me 2 months, it took me 2 years. And I was just grinding. And there was many times I remember thinking to myself, like, am I crazy? Like, is this ever gonna happen? Am I chasing like a fake dream? I knew it was possible for other people. I didn't know it would be possible for my wife and I. And ultimately in that company, I became, the fastest growing distributor we had in the United States. I was traveling all over the country. I ultimately spoke, all over the world, Moscow and Omsk, Russia, and Almaty, Kazakhstan, and so on. And I got to a place where I ultimately sold that business, that distributorship, sold that and got out of network marketing for the next 2 years. And then I was doing private equity consulting. And then long story short, 13 years ago, I came into a company that was a direct sales company, network marketing company that was 25 years old, but it had 8 years in a row of double-digit decline in revenue, basically going the wrong direction in revenue for 8 consecutive years. It was owned by a private equity group that had bought the debt and converted the debt to equity, so they own the company. And it was a distressed asset, basically, is what it was. And so they hired me and a couple other of us as kind of a little SWAT team to see if we could take this dying company and, I don't know, give it a shot, because it was about to fail. And in that process, we kind of tore it down to the floorboards and we just literally restarted. So we took like the good assets it had and then started over. New name, new ownership team, new executive management team, entirely new compensation plan, entirely new systems, new executive team, the whole thing. And we created a business model that was kind of more of a customer acquisition model. And I thought we had a chance to really move the discussion forward in direct sales, away a little bit from kind of the self-consumption model that I was used to years prior, where it was more reps getting reps, to more of a customer acquisition model. And in that process, I remember saying, I'm in. I remember thinking we had a $1 billion idea. And I said, I'm going to go in the field, I'm going to launch a new line, and I'm going to go prove that this is going to work. I'm not going to tell everybody else what to go do. And long story short, it wasn't $1 billion idea. We did like $2.5 billion. We acquired over 5 million customers, and it was just turned into a really phenomenal business. What was tough about it is at the end of 2021, unbeknownst to me at the time, the equity group had structured on hundreds of millions of dollars of debt onto the company. So they had done a recap and pulled all of that cash out, kept the cash. They didn't put it in the coffers of the company. They kept the cash. And when the company in 2022 kind of came off the COVID high and so on, and by the way, it wasn't a dramatic revenue softening, just a normal softening. But the debt load was so intense and so high that even any softening of revenue put the company basically in a precarious financial situation. In fact, it put it on the verge of bankruptcy. And when that happened, there's 2 things that happened. One is the equity group started looking at how can they save money? So they started cutting products and so on. And long story short, they see my commissions at that time, and they're like, I'm sure there's some guy in New York, on a spreadsheet, like, what's that number? Who's that guy? Get rid of him, And then I had some people that I really considered friends. I really thought we were dear friends that basically thought, man, I had $23 million lines. So for those of you that have ever built networks, you know how it is. Like you build a team of 100,000 a month or $1 million a month. I had 23 different lines of $23 million lines in width. And so I built a really sizable business. Well, that business, if you're not there, someone's got to go absorb all those lines. So greed and stuff can kick in. Long story short, my wife and I had to fall break in New York. We landed, we were pulling into the airport. We've been traveling all day. It's about 10:30 at night, my time in the East Coast. And I check my emails and it says, you're terminated and we're going to sue you, from a law firm I've never heard of before in my whole life. I'm like, what in the world is this? It was so shocking is not even the right word. It was just, you couldn't even quite wrap your brain around it. And long story short, this company that you'd given 11 years of your best years of your life, you know, and then billions of dollars in revenue with, and was a co-creator of the whole idea. You know, they just, without even a phone call, just said, you know, we don't need you anymore. And I remember sitting down with my kids, and I hope this is helpful for some of you listening, because my guess is some of you right now, you know, you guys, Tom and Adrian, you know how it is, man. It's like if you're not going through something right now, you might have just left something, and if you didn't leave something, it's coming here soon. It's just life is one of those things where it's just kind of challenging, you know. So I sit down with my kids. We had adjoining rooms in this hotel. At 11 o'clock at night, we've been traveling all day. I said to my wife, hey, babe, order some room service. So I got to talk to my attorney and figure out what the heck we're doing here. And she's stressed. Obviously, I'm stressed. I'm ready to burst into tears, and I'm also ticked off, and I'm also mad. I'm just all these emotions, right? And I'm scared. You know, it's a $2 billion equity fund versus me. I'm like, oh, geez, you know. And long story short, I went to my kids' their little room after talking to my attorney and my wife. And I sat him down. I said, because I wanted him to remember this moment. I just said, listen, I said, Dad just got terminated. My little girl turned to her sister at the time. To give you an idea, my son, we started that business the day after he was born. He was 1 day old. My little girl was 3, and my other little girl was 5, and my son was, what would he have been, 8 when we started. This is all they'd ever known. These kids, this business was all they'd ever known. My little daughter turns to her sister. What does terminated mean? And she goes, I think it means Dad got fired. And she goes, you know, I think it means Dad got fired from the company. And she goes, I thought Dad was the company, you know, because they'd watched me build this business, you know?
Yeah.
So anyway, I said to him, I said, I want you to know they picked the wrong guy. I said, I'm going to fight back, and I'm going to stand up for myself, and I'm going to stand up for our family. And I said, and I'm not done. I said, I'm going to come back. You watch. I said, I'm going to come back. And, you know, if you squeeze a lemon, you know, what comes out? You know, lemon juice. If you squeeze an orange, what comes out? An orange juice, you know, comes out. When you get squoze in your life, you kind of figure out what's really in there. You know, you kind of get squoze, you figure out what's really inside. And for me, what came out was the thing that I'd been doing my whole life, even with my single mom and so on, was just the fighter came out, and just the resolve and the grit. And I just thought, I'm not going out like this. And fast forward about 18 months, well, fast forward 12 months later, we launched our company. And 6 months later, that company went bankrupt. Exactly what I thought was going to happen, unfortunately happened. And I say that it was heartbreaking for, you know, any of the hardworking folks involved. Just literally, check this out. The same thing that happened to me happened to the whole company. It was on a Friday afternoon, no phone call, nobody knew. They just literally locked the door, and everyone just walked out, so that it was just over for everyone. And, you know, in our first 11 months of launching our new business, you know, we did over $100 million in revenue, shipped over like 2.4 million products. And, you know, it's the craziest thing. It's like, I didn't get betrayed, I got set free. And I didn't get crushed, I got strengthened. And I didn't get buried, I got planted. And that's just how life works sometimes, man. It's like, you think that someone just crushed you. Maybe all they did was just strengthen your shoulders. Or you thought that you just got buried by the divorce or the bankruptcy or all the hard things you've been through. Maybe all it's done is just planted you, you know, to be the one you're born to be. So that's ultimately what happened. That's kind of a quick snapshot, but that's a quick catch up to what's happened today.
And that's just perfect. And I love the fact that you said you were scared, and it was hard. And, you know, you had friends that you didn't know you had, but you also had enemies that you didn't know you had. And I don't know which one's more shocking in the whole scheme of things, looking in my crazy life, very, very parallel, but not similar situations, being a recovering alcoholic and going through everything that I thought was the end of the rope was the end of that rope. The good news about that is I let go of that rope and got a brand new rope that was 10 times better, which is what, you know, and God this whole time screaming at you, Justin, let go of the rope. But we're hanging on to it 100%. For dear life because we're idiots. And all of a sudden you let go and you realize God's got this, and the whole thing changes. And now you've got a paintbrush to build something for the team, for the people, with the people, and
Yes.
that's got to feel real good.
Yeah, so interesting that note. So about 10 days after this happened, it was the most painful. That wrongful termination was the most painful thing I've ever been through. And about 10 days after it happened, we live in a place called St. George, Utah. It's about 4 hours south of Salt Lake City. So Salt Lake City is we used to do events up there. It's like our big conventions and so on. And we go up to Salt Lake. My girls had some dance stuff. And across the street is the Salt House where we used to do our big events. And we're staying at the Hilton where we used to stay at for our big events. So my point is, it was a place that I would go and I would have thousands and thousands of my own people there. And when you'd walk through the hallways, you're taking pictures and shaking hands and being with your people, these people, you pour your whole life into. And it was I remember pulling in late, you check into your hotel, no one knows who you are. No one cares. You have no income coming in. That first month I ended up spending $150,000 a month that first month to defend myself. By the way, this is not a good math equation. You have no income coming in and you're spending $150,000 a month to defend yourself. This is, at some point, that math is not awesome. And that I had that night, literally a dream. No kidding. I had this dream that the company called me and they're like, "We're sorry, you can come back. We realized that was a huge mistake, our bad, whatever." And I'm like, "Thanks so much. Let me back. We can be friends again, whatever." Anyway, I remember waking up in the morning. It was just a particularly painful night and a particularly painful morning. Like my emotions were very, very raw. It's like touching a raw nerve. And I get a phone call about 8:30 in the morning from a friend of mine in downtown Salt Lake. She's the way I would describe her, she's like a life coach, but kind of like one of those like spiritual advisor kind of people you meet. They're just really in tune humans. They're just really sweet people. And our relationship's more of a text relationship where you text them and they'd say, "Hey, can you set up a time?" We're not super close, right? But she just calls me, just straight up calls me. And I pick up the phone and I go, "Hey, what's going on?" She goes, "Hey," she goes, "How are things going for you?" And I go, I'm doing really good. Great. I'm doing great. What I should have said is, "I'm not doing so good." I wanted to burst into tears. I mean, literally at that moment, but I gave her the "I'm doing fine" speech. We've all probably done that before. Where we're like, "Things great for me," but the truth is we're hurting. And she said, "I've got a word for you." I said, "Okay, what's that?" She said, "Trust the redirect." She said, "Trust that God is in the details of your life and trust that your life is being redirected for good."
Good.
And again, as you guys listen to this, and Tom, that idea of like you're holding onto the rope so hard, man, just trust the redirect. Trust that God's got a better plan, a brighter life. And to your point, sometimes people are revealed to you. I call them revealing moments. Like, so for example, Shakespeare wrote the famous words, "E tu, Brute," and it's referred to "you tu, Brutus" is what it means. When Julius Caesar was killed, he was killed by his own friends. He was stabbed to death by his own friends, and he was stabbed 22 times. The last stab was by Brutus. Brutus was his best friend, number 2 in command of the Roman Empire. I mean, Brutus was his guy. And he looked at him, he said, "E tu, Brute," like, "You too, Brutus, like you're doing this too." Those are revealing moments. Judas was revealed to Jesus when the pressure was on. So people can be revealed to you. And by the way, for the positive too, you can have friends that are revealed to you. You realize who your real friends are.
Yeah.
And man, what a beautiful moment in life when people are revealed to you. Yeah, I'd much rather know. Like it's like my wife says sometimes. She's like, I learned this about her. She has a full-blown sixth sense, but she'd be like, we'd be working with someone, particularly in our early marriage, and I'd be like, "Babe, they're a sheep," and she's like, "I think they're a wolf." And I go, "No, sweetheart, they are sheep." And then later they would turn into be a wolf. I go, "Babe, they're a wolf." And she's kind of like, "No, I told you so." But the point is, man, what a blessing to know who's who. And you can really start to build your relationships with real friends but you don't know who they are until they're under duress. So last thing I'll share with you on this point, problems in life, problems or challenge or the pain of life or the stress of life, but think of it as problems, just encompass it in problems. Problems do 3 things for us. Problems introduce us to us. You find out who you really are when the chips are down. You find out who you really are when you got a real problem. Yeah. The second thing that problems do is problems introduce you to others, because you meet everyone else when the chips are down too. That duress, it reveals people to you, and that's a good thing. And then the third thing is problems introduce you to opportunity, because the bigger the problem, the bigger the paycheck. The bigger the problem, the more lives that you can go change by solving that problem. And so for me, picking myself back up, licking the wounds, dusting yourself off. And then I just remember saying, I was like, I'm not done. Like, I just kept saying my best days are ahead. I'm going to keep going. And I felt this huge desire to still make a difference in the world and make a difference with my life. And so that, that's kind of how I navigated that otherwise extremely painful situation.
So first of all, thank you for the transparency. Thanks for the realness. I think you can just see in the comments, so many people are really resonating and identifying with that. So thank you for that. I kind of have two questions that maybe relate. I was talking several months ago, actually, to somebody who's really, really successful for many years in network marketing. And we were talking about just kind of like the landscape out there. And they said, there's been a few different companies, or, there's been these new deals that have launched. There's been a bunch of stuff, and, everything there's a hype cycle around all these things, right? Like, network marketers are really good at creating a hype cycle, right? And there was a hype cycle around your company when it started, and there was a hype cycle around a lot of other deals when they started. And they said to me, the interesting thing to me, I just kind of watch these things play out, and I pay no attention to the hype cycle because people are good at doing that. But that company is quietly, or not so quietly, depending on what circle you're in, but is just, putting up numbers quarter after quarter after, like they're doing it, and they're getting legs, and they're not relying on some crazy ongoing hype cycle to do it. They're just doing it. And so I'm curious, from your perspective, like the DNA of what you're building now, and how that experience informs the culture that you're creating, and what are your reflections on how you guys have been able to do that?
Yeah, great question. So there was back in England in the 1800s, they had what they called fried froth. They would be like a cappuccino, and they'd take all that froth on top of the cappuccino, and they would slice it off, and they would fry it. And they said it was the kind of thing that you could eat all day and still be hungry. That's how I look at hype. Like, hype is fried froth. It's just the kind of thing you could eat all day and still be hungry. So underneath excitement or passion or enthusiasm, you need to have some real substance. And I felt like we had really three things working for us. Number one is we had an incredible ownership team that came together. Each one of our kind of co-founding team, and I put this team together, and candidly, I still have to kind of pinch myself that they all came together to do a little startup idea concept with me, But these are folks that had all built, $1 billion plus, in some cases, multi-billion dollar direct sales companies. Most of them as CEO of those large companies, some of the largest companies in the world of direct sales. And they all kind of came together to say, let's go, they thought we had a chance to do something special. So a company is going to come down at some point to the vision, the integrity, the expertise, the know-how, the operational excellence of the people that own and operate the company. In other words, you could have all of the excitement in the world. In fact, fast growth can cause a lot of operational pressure on a business, right? You got to be able to keep up with it, or else people will feel like it was just hype, So I think that was just critical, putting that team together. Second thing was just an incredible product story, and, we literally scoured the world, no kidding, looking for a product that, because for me, I'll share this with you guys. And again, this is just in the spirit of 100% transparency. I wasn't going to do this again in direct sales unless we had something that I felt like we truly could make a huge difference in the world. Like, I didn't have any interest of doing my protein powders better than yours, or my multivitamins better than yours, or my stick pack of this is better than yours. I just didn't have any interest. It's just too hard in the field to help someone to build an authentic opportunity if the product story is not really, really, really can stand on its own 2 feet, And when we found these biotech labs that were using artificial intelligence data platforms to identify and isolate and do human clinicals with peptides from nature, I knew we had a big story. I mean, the one lab, had $130 million of venture capital money put into their lab, and I just knew we had a chance. We had cell signaling peptides from nature that you didn't have to inject. I just knew we had a huge. I thought we had a $10 billion platform. It was just a big, big story, and I still feel that way. So product narrative, like, you can only run on hype, or only run on excitement, or only run on passion, or you can only run on that kind of stuff literally for so long. At some point, your consumer has to buy and then rebuy and then rebuy and then rebuy your product. And they're only going to do that if the product is adding value to their life and is adding, because your consumer is not part of your business opportunity. Your consumer's not going to your meetings. They're not listening to your calls. They don't listen to the doctors. Like, they better love your product. And to give you guys an idea, last month, 92% of our revenue, 92% was subscription revenue. It's just, we built this massive base of subscription revenue. And that when we had that product story, I knew we had something special. Third thing is just, we put together an incredible leadership team in the field. And I tell people, leaders cause growth. Key leaders are worth their weight in gold in our space. And both through some of my relationships and contacts, and then from their relationships, et cetera, we were able to put together a leadership team where we were able to build systems and leadership and training and mentor and serve and make a difference in people's lives. And you guys know how it is. It's not everyone that joins direct sales is going to make $1 zillion. Yep. But the question is, are they better because they came? Can you create an environment and a culture where we're improving someone's life? Tom, to your point, maybe we help the person that's been battling addiction, we help them to get past that. Maybe we help the person that their marriage is about to dissolve, and you can help them to work through that because of the confidence and the skill sets and the courage that you give them and the clarity that you provide. Maybe what you do is it's the person, Adrian, to your point, they coach the Little League baseball team, and you can help them be a better coach. So they're going to impact the next generation of these young leaders, even though they're just kids, you go impact their lives. So to me, that's the community part of what we get a chance to do in direct sales. It's probably the reason I love, what we do so much. And so for me, I knew I wanted to make a difference with people that wanted to make a difference, and I wanted to do something that makes a difference and create the future of wellness, as well as, create economic opportunity for people. And so that combination, this kind of once in a generation ownership team coming together, this future of wellness product story, and then 3 was just the right leaders, willing to kind of put their egos aside and say, how can we work for the collective good and work with a collective genius? Those 3 things created a real spark. And what's cool about it is I feel like those 3 things are the same 3 things that are going to take us from where we are to where we really want to go as a company, which I feel like we're just getting started right now, but you need those 3 elements to get there.
And I'm looking at some of the comments, and everything you're saying is right on the money. And I talked about this earlier in a post on Facebook, but guys like you, people expect to do well. They expect me to do well. The field actually is a little bit resentful of all the attention we get because they're working their asses off for not a lot of money, and they could easily say that we aren't. And we're so tone deaf. And you talked about putting your ego aside here at the beginning, but I think we need to put our egos aside forever. And, Daryl, and I saw her on here. I met her down in Costa Rica. She was with another company, joined you guys, and you guys have put some major light on her. And what I love about that, and you take a look at that, so you could hypothetically be called a startup. And then you've got prepaid legal. And people are talking about, man, alive, prepaid legal's back. And they talk about Shackley. It's back. Well, no, they aren't. They're still the same company. They just had somebody come in and light it up. And those leaders, the old guys like me, were smart, not like me, they're smarter than me, were smart enough to put the light on them and say, man alive, look at these new people joining that go nuts, and take the attention off the old people and put it on those ones that are ringing the bell, and have your ego to the side. And little Darylyn is a case in point, because she's going to be rocking here pretty quick.
Yeah,
but
she's already rocking. She's
going to do the same thing with her leaders, because I'm telling you, this business is built on giving the microphone away, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Oh man, I love that. I want to hit a couple of thoughts, because so my friends, I want to share a couple of thoughts with you that will help you in your career. I've never worked harder for less money for more years than I did in my career in direct sales. I worked my freaking buns off to build something. And there was many times I was like, what am I doing? I swear I could go do something else and make more money than this. Like, what the freak am I doing? These little commission checks, and I'm working like a dog, And I got to a place the first time, I would go to conventions, and the second convention, the third convention, and I would cheer, and I would be so inspired by the people. And I thought, oh, if they can do it, I can do it, that kind of thing. I got to a point, I just have to be so transparent with you, where I began to resent success. I mean, the rich, happy, successful people would cross stage. I'm sitting back in the the back of the 6,000 person room. I'm staying at the hotel, the one that's 15 minutes away that you don't dare take off your socks. And I like couldn't afford to get there in the first place. And like the happy people would cross the stage. And I'm just like, I am so happy for all of your success. Like, I was just like, give me a break,
Yeah.
Here's what I want to share though. Here's a quick little mind pivot that I would encourage you guys to consider. You never want to resent success, because this is what part of what helped me. So check this out. Because what I learned was this, is if it's possible for one, it's possible for many. And I would rather that anyone was succeeding in our company than no one was succeeding. If no one's succeeding, if no one in the world succeeding, or no one in the country succeeding, or no one in your state succeeding, or no one in your country, that's discouraging. But if anyone's winning, then it's like, oh, if it's possible for them, it's possible for me. Now, that was the first thing I learned. Second thing I learned was this, and this is such an important point. I learned to use their success story to build my success story.
There you go.
So instead of me I learned how to, instead of resenting their story and getting jealous and kind of like, well, I don't even want to hear your guys' like happy story. I started thinking, I'm going to use yours. I had people that were in France and Mexico and Italy. They weren't even in my country. And I would tell their stories to my prospects, for my prospects to get enough belief to join me. And those people weren't even on my team. They had nothing to do with me. They weren't upline. They weren't downline. They're just people in different countries. So I used their success stories to build my success story. And then here's the third part. When this shifted for me, it was honestly, it was one of the big pivots of my career. I didn't resent success. I used their success stories to build my success stories. And then the third thing is I thought to myself was this, is if it's possible for one, it's possible for many. I was like, if they can do it, that means it's possible. And if I had someone on my team, this is the litmus test. If someone on your team, so let's say you personally enroll someone or someone in one of your lines, they were having that success, meaning they're the one that's now crossing stage. Would you want people to cheer for them? Yeah. And so I started being like, man, of course I was. I remember when I got on stage at Tom and Adrian the very first time, it was about 6,000 people. It was in Orlando, Florida. And I remember being on stage. Most of the people had seen my grind, so that it was kind of inspiring to them that I finally made it. But there was still some in the back of the room that were doing the like, we're so happy for your success, And I wanted to say to them, no, guys, I'm different. I'm you. I am you. I know exactly what you're feeling right now. I'm not like the rich, happy, successful people. I'm you. I've been grinding as well. Like I didn't think I could get up here either. I wanted to go sit with them in the audience. No, guys, I'm different. You could do this too. Because I'm telling you can do it because I just did it and I thought that they could do it. So if it is possible, you don't always need probable in life. You just do need possible. And if it's possible for one, it's possible for many. So when I had that little mindset shift, that was a big thing. Now, second thing to your point, I tell people you can't over recognize. You can't meaning you want to recognize people for everything. If people had a mom, you recognize them. If people can smile, you recognize them. Like find reasons to celebrate, find reasons to say great job, find reasons to say keep going and to encourage people, And so that next generation, because you're always looking to build that next generation of leaders. If you're only celebrating just your top ones, and Tom, to your point, it's like if you're a top one listening to this, listen, the best thing you can do for your business is get other people up on that stage that's not you, like get the light shining on some other folks, like build the layers of leadership in the org to where it's not just, you all the time is this, probably the best thing you can do for the team. My mentor said to me once, he said, the best thing you can do for your team, I was making hundreds of dollars at this point, and I was trying my hardest. And he goes, the best thing you can do for your team is get your check through the stratosphere. And I remember thinking, that's your advice? I was like, okay, that's okay. That sounds great. But what? He goes, because when you go launch new lines and get your check to grow, he goes, it will do more for your credibility and confidence than anything else. And he goes, it will do more for your team to realize that you're still in the game, you're still building, you're still producing, but it's by launching new lines, serving more people. Listen, service to many leads to greatness. You want to go to the next level of your life. How can you serve and add more value to more people at a higher scale? How can you serve your customers better? How can you serve your team better? Can you be one chapter of a book ahead of them? Can you serve them? Can you have something to give, something to add value to their life? That is the secret. That is the secret. How do we get your income to go up? We got to serve more people. Maybe we improve the systems or we improve the processes so that we can serve more people more rapidly. But that is the secret. And when you do that, what happens is you can sit in the back of the room, you can stand up and cheer and clap, and your people are on the stage. That's when this business starts to become actually really fun.
I wish all you people were recovering alcoholics. And the reason I say that is you walk into an AA meeting and the most important person in the room is the newcomer who's just sitting in the corner, scared to death, can't even stay sober one day, can't get a cup of coffee because his hands are shaking so much. And that guy is literally held until 90 days from now when he's actually helping other people do exactly the same thing.
I love that.
That's this business. And if any of you will ever come to Longmont, Colorado, we're doing it again Friday night and Saturday this week. We got people coming into town and we're going to go to an AA meeting on Saturday morning because I want them to see what it's like to be in love with the lowest common denominator. And if you do that, you realize that you aren't in a network marketing business. You aren't in a product or a compensation business. You are in a saving lives business that is gravely important right now because everybody's scared to death and nobody wants to be left behind. Everybody wants to be seen. And what I love about what you guys are doing is you're making that happen. And I had a lot of experience in this business a long time ago and a lot of success. And I spent a lot of time trying to figure out how to mess that up by reading my own press clippings. And I literally went back, and I've been sober 37 years. I literally went back to AA twice a day about 15 years ago. And I've been going twice a day since then. Why? Because I want to be related and relatable to the people that need my help the most, no matter how much money I do or don't have. And I want all of you to think from there in your business because this is life and death stuff. We don't take it seriously enough most of the time, do we?
That's so good. That's so good. I want to share this with you. So if you've ever, J.R.R. Tolkien wrote a series called Lord of the Rings. It's one of the greatest literary books ever. But they made it into movies, and so even if you're not a Lord of the Rings fan, hopefully you can learn from this story. So they have what they call the Ring of Power, right? So you can imagine they have these. They created the Ring of Power, and the reason they created it is because if you had the ring, you had all power, and so they thought, man, if you had all power, you could do all good and you could help everybody. But there's an old saying that says that power corrupts and absolute power corrupts what? Absolutely, right? So guess what happened to men's heart or a woman's heart? In this case, guess what happened to the hearts of men when they had all power? Well, it corrupted them, right? The same thing can happen in our space. In our space, you get the light and the recognition and maybe the money, and you start to read your own press clippings and start to believe all this edification that you were given. And people tell you how amazing you are. And so when you start thinking like, maybe I'm pretty amazing. Holy cow. Like you want your kids to listen to you more. And they seem to not really listen to you as much as you want them to. And the point is this, the story says that the ring was ultimately found by a little hobbit. The guy's name's Frodo. He was pure enough and righteous enough and pure enough that he could carry the ring and not have it ruin him. And then ultimately he could give it away. He could give the power away. And that's what actually restored order. So when you go on those stages, or when you're on this team Zoom, or when you're on, the team recognition celebration each week or each month for all the progress that you're making, the company's giving you light and power, right? Or even commissions, right? You're earning commissions. Your job is not to hold on to it. If you hold on to it, it will ruin you. It's like a sponge. Think about like a sponge. If you sponge up all that water and you soak it all in, you sponge it up. If you never wring it out, you just soak it all in, all the edification, all the light, all the power. What will happen is you'll ruin the sponge. You want to be a mirror. So when the light hits you, all the recognition and so on, what you do is you reflect up to those that came before you, reflect to the company, gratitude, those that, provided above you, said yes first, mentored you, coached you, reflect down. Just that light just reflects down, just pour into the people that got you on that stage in the first place of this amazing team and these people that you love. And you can reflect side to side to all the other people that have created the culture and the environment for you to stay on the stage. So the goal is not to let the light soak into you or the recognition or the money. You just give it away. And you give it away by being a mirror. You just reflect it onto the next person. And if we will do that, it's a little bit like volleyball. It's like in volleyball, you can't hit the ball twice in a row. So someone has to bump, someone has to set, someone spike. So Tom, maybe some of the times it's my job to set. Boom, I set you up. and then it's your job. Bam, you come and spike it. Or maybe it's my turn. You kind of give me a good set and it's my turn. Bam, I spike it. We can play off of each other like this. So it's like you work with your team, you're setting them up, they're spiking. There's times when they're setting you up, you're spiking. So instead of letting all the edification absorb into you, you just use it to like empower the next person and empower the next person. Tell the person you believe in them and you've got what it takes. And that idea of giving up the power, giving up the light, and not letting it being a mirror, not a sponge. This is how I would encourage, all of us to think about all these nice things that are said about us, just like let that reflect back into pouring into someone else's life. So in other words, someone gives you the power, as it were, instead of absorbing it, just give it right back into somebody, go pour it into the next person.
There you go.
So as a company owner, one thing that makes me crazy is the detachment from the field, where they think it's almost man versus whatever. And they've got this elevated opinion of themselves. They are set apart. They don't really get out into the trenches. What I love about you and your partners, and I know all of them, and I am in love with what you're doing. They are network marketers on top of being great businessmen and leaders. And they will never forget they are network marketers first and foremost, because of your belief that they can't, because it is the lifeblood of the business. And you said something profound. You've got to love those leaders, because you're training the shit out of them. And then, you forget about them. And the next thing you know, somebody comes and picks them up because you ignored them. And it's the same thing with your absolute brand new customers. You've got to treat them as those unbelievably loved customers without running them out with some jingo lingo jargon filled conversation about being a billionaire. They just want a product that works. And you guys are really, really good at that. And I've watched it, and I can just feel that you guys communicate at the top, doing everything you can to have the people that are coming into the company brand new feel like they're a part of day one. Is that by intention?
Yeah, so interesting. I had a mentor of mine that I used to. So back in the day, again, Adrian won't know about these days. Back in the day, we used to have CDs, right? You'd listen to CDs in your car. Even before that, cassette tapes. We had CDs, and I used to listen to this one mentor specifically. I just saw BK on here. BK would know this.
And I love him. Talk about a guy that duplicates. Jesus.
Yeah, exactly. So I would listen to this guy, and I was so inspired by him. He was in his 60s. I was in my 20s. I really looked up to him. He was no hype, no fluff, no nonsense. He was a former engineer for LA County. He was a point A to point B kind of guy. His worst year in network marketing, his worst year since 1978 was $500,000. Only made $40,000 a month that year. So he just had this incredibly successful career. So I remember I was in a hallway, and guys, I don't know, the session must have been going on, and maybe I stepped out to borrow the restroom or something, because all I remember is I'm in one of those big, huge hallways at a convention hall, and I'm walking, just, getting to my next thing, and I look up. Have you ever had that happen, that you look up and you catch eyes and they catch eyes? It's just, you're passing, right? And I look at him, and it's him. It's this guy, it's this superstar, it's this mentor, it's this guy that's like literally kept me in the game. And it was happening so fast. I looked up right as we were about to pass each other. And he looked at me, and he kind of tapped me kind of on the elbow, on the shoulder. And he just goes, "Hey, you're doing a great job. Keep going." Something like that. Just super, super casual, super quick. It was 2 seconds. And I kept walking. He kept walking. I said, "Thank you so much." I turned around, and I almost wanted to just burst into tears. I was like, "He even knows who I am?" Like, oh my gosh, I can't believe this, And I remember how impactful that little moment was. 2 seconds. I don't even know if it was 2 seconds, a second and a half. And that I felt seen. And that I felt like some of all this work that I've been putting in, someone noticed, and that he was that level of encouragement, which was simply, "You're doing a great job, keep going." That was basically what he said.
Yeah.
And so I tried to learn from that. And I try and walk slowly through the crowd. And I try my very best to literally create a moment with each person. Look them in the eye. Don't look past them to, who else is here, where else is going on. Just look them in the eye and shake their hand and ask them their name, and see if I could have just one, even if it's just 30 seconds or 15 seconds or 20, whatever it is, but see if I could look them in the eye and be sincere and create a little bit moment, tell them I'm proud of them for being there and I respect them. And, I honor the hard work they're putting in, because I remember how much those little moments meant for me. And those little moments is maybe embarrassing as it is, they kept me in the game. That little, like, you're doing a good job. It's one of the reasons I kept going. So Steve Jobs, in his famous commencement speech for Stanford, he said, you can't connect the dots of your life looking forward. You can only connect the dots of your life looking back. In other words, you guys ever had those happen in your life where it's like, this person led me that, to this moment, this experience. And when you look back, that's what got you here. But it was all the things, these little stepping stones. Well, you can't see that stuff looking forward. Those little I see you, those little keep going, those little you're doing a good job, those kept me in the game. Those were part of those stepping stones. I would have probably quit and given up and just been like, I suck at this. This isn't going anywhere. But someone that I cared about and that I looked up to said, hey, you're doing a great job. Keep going. I look at my whole career now. I mean, that's led to literally changing my whole life and without any hyperbole, tens of thousands of other people's lives, because I kept going, because he said, he gave me that encouragement. So that's the power of slowing down and really pouring into your people. Like, the people are the engine. Yes, the products are like the fuel. We need a good car. The operations of the car. We need a car. Don't get me wrong. We need all that. But man, if you don't have an engine, you could have the coolest looking, freaking awesomest car ever, but no engine, you're in trouble. And so the engine of our business, the soul of what we get to do in direct sales, is these people that we get to go pour into. And so to me, it's a real sacred responsibility.
Wow. Okay, so we got to go. I'm already getting fired. We're on regular radio, so we have to chop this show to put into all the commercials, and we're 7 minutes overdue. So the producer's just going to screw me over big time money wise. It'll cost us a fortune, but we'll be on the radio. But Justin, the juice was worth the squeeze. I knew we were going to love you. How do people find you? Did we ever say?
I am justinprince.com is the best way.
So you go to IamJustinPrince.com. I'm on across all social media platforms, and Tom and Adrian, like both of you, I put out a ton of free content I've asked myself, like, if I didn't have any mentors in those early years, so I thought, if I could mentor me now, what advice would I want to have? So if I could share anything that adds value to any of your people, that would be meaningful to me.
Oh, we want you back. And if you ever, Kate Busker. Okay, so a minute ago I talked about Dara Lynn just being this Kate Busker. I'm watching her on social media. She's doing the same thing at her company. She is just blowing it up. And as a result, everybody's taking credit for her success too. And that's what I love. It goes for the company takes credit, all the corporate employees take credit, the upline takes in credit, and Kate does all the work. Same thing with Daryl, and I'm not going to say that. I don't know that for a fact, but I will tell you. Kate. Yeah, it is so beautiful, and light it up. Every one of you can be that person to light it up, I promise you. And next week, we've got an amazing woman. How is she, 90?
Close.
She's at least 90. Her name is Francoise. And she was in what country?
She was born in the Netherlands.
Born in the Netherlands. The war is going on. She meets a soldier. The soldier loves her. She loves the soldier. The soldier, she thought the soldier said, would you like to go on a date? But the soldier really said, will you marry me? So she married him, and they stayed married happily ever after for like 50 years. And she's written a book. She's a network marketer. She is a tough old bird, and I love her with all my heart. So we're going to put her on the show next week to follow the great Justin Prince. And we love you so much, Justin, and thank you.
It's my honor, guys, and I really appreciate and value both of you, the great work that you do, the value that you add. Again, service to many leads to greatness. I feel like you two, the reason you guys are great is because you serve so many people at such a high level. So just nothing but, respect and gratitude to chat with you for a few minutes.
All right,
Thanks
you got
so
it.
much.
PK, we love you too, buddy. See you later,
Amen.
everybody. Bye-bye.
Thanks, everybody. See you next week.